Skiffy Fendi Show's Torture Cinema.
We're flying. We're fanged. We're tatty.
Is that a reference to the way they dress?
What?
No, okay. Never mind. I know exactly what it's referencing. I was trying to make a bad joke. I did say in our tweets about this, or toots, or whatever we're calling them now.
Skeets,
yeah.
something. Not tweets.
I said
tweets
they would bring the bad jokes, and apparently I did. Well, I'm Shaun.
I'm David.
I'm Sir actually appearing in this episode. I'm Paul.
And today on our live Torture Cinema show, we'll discuss 1946's The Flying Serpent. It was written by... Wait, who took the thing out? I had a whole thing there, like a whole note.
Yes, I took that out. I took that out because David wants to talk about that at length during the show rather than bringing it up front. So...
now I don't have an interesting factoid anymore.
The factoid's going to be part of the main body.
It's going to be a major feature now. It's been upgraded.
It's been upgraded to major feature from factoid.
All right, well then I'll make something up instead. Today on our live Torture Cinema show, we'll discuss 1946's The Flying Serpent, which is what David Annandale actually did his dissertation on, by the way. It was written by John T. Neville, directed by Sam Newfield, and stars George Zucco, Ralph Lewis, Hope Kramer, and Eddie Yacouf.
This film was selected by our Patreon supporters based on a poll of bad films that somebody other than me selected because they're kind of mean. If you're not yet subscribed to... Oh, actually, I did have something to do with that.
Yes, you did.
If you're not yet... Yeah, not entirely, but I did have... I was a paid consultant. No, unpaid consultant.
Definitely not paid. We have no money.
Yeah. Speaking of Patreon, if you're not yet subscribed to our Patreon, please join for as little as $1 a month and get a chance to suggest future torture for us and force it upon us by voting in upcoming polls. I almost read that as vomiting in upcoming polls, and I don't know if that's an appropriate Freudian slip or not.
It depends on what month we're doing and what shows we're doing. Trust me. But anyway, speaking of that Patreon, we have a special continuing challenge is still going on. When our Patreon gets up to $150 per month, that's $150 US, we'll do for our sins a special Torture Cinema show on 2019's Cats, a film that gives this entire cast nightmares even if we've never seen it. So if you want us to do a Torture Cinema episode on Cats, tell folks about this show and review us wherever you get your podcasts, because word of mouth is the only way fan-run podcasts really get any traction, and we need your help to find new ears for our ridiculous show. God help us all.
We'll note, just out of kindness, that Configuration Queen and Lenny are in chat for our live show, and everyone can come here to Twitch and watch this happen live. You can see how the sausage is made, tatty or not. And so,
or is it stuffing? Since we're doing this the day after Thanksgiving, we see how the stuffing is made rather than sausage.
It's long. Okay, well, that's fair enough.
I'm trying to keep in theme with the season. It's the reason for the season.
It is amusing because this is definitely not coming out anytime near Thanksgiving. So
no, but
I'm so behind, Paul. Okay.
Boy.
It is time to get to what we're drinking, as is important, and that we should mention, both because we're on Twitch and they have very strict rules, and because we think it's important for people to be safe. If you imbibe of the alcoholic variety, please drink responsibly. Do not drink and drive. Do not overconsume. If you have a problem, seek help. If you don't have a problem, stay inside and enjoy chips or whatever you would like. Watch the game. Chill out, enjoy life. Please drink responsibly at all times. Period. End of discussion. So, with that in mind, David, what beverage are you drinking?
I am so excited about doing this movie that I have especially put on my George Zucco t-shirt, and I'm drinking absinthe.
Absinthe,
Shaun,
really?
what are you drinking?
What? Wait, what kind of absinthe? Like good absinthe?
Yeah, good absinthe. Yeah, it's even got the wormwood in it.
Oh, wow. So it's not, is it not green?
Yeah, it's kind of sort of a yellowy green.
Oh, it's good then. You got good stuff.
Okay, so we got a little off script. I'm changing the script.
Okay. Oh, because he said Shaun
and Shaun.
Right. So we'll go
I'm
to you,
sorry.
then we'll go to me. That's fine. We'll follow. We'll follow.
I have
the
no
fiction.
short-term memory. Yeah.
It's
We'll
all
follow
good.
the fiction.
Well,
What are
Actually,
you
the
drinking?
script says, and you. The script asks me. I'm supposed to say, and you, Sean, according to the script.
well,
Now it does. It used to say Paul for until
it's
10
fine.
seconds
We
ago.
can just
okay,
go
yeah.
with it, guys. It's all good.
Go with it, Sean.
Lurleni's asking if it was in a can. The absinthe in a can.
Oh, it was in a bottle.
No.
It's like a little. Oh, it's like.
It's in a little Van Gogh shot glass.
It's just a tall, thin, skinny shot glass.
Full of absinthe.
It did look like a bottle, and it's got a skull. Oh boy,
That's amazing. Excellent.
This might be the classiest and most literary focused drink anyone's ever had on Torture Cinema ever.
Very possibly. Yeah. Moulin Rouge is calling as we speak.
There's a Moulin Rouge exhibit at the MIA right now, Sean.
Okay, don't tempt me because I love Moulin Rouge.
Because I went to see it this morning. You're not allowed to take pictures there in it, but I went to see it this morning.
That's great. Well, okay, so I'm having a beverage. I don't really have a lot of alcohol at the moment. We cleared it out when I moved, and I haven't really restocked because I don't have anywhere to keep it all that is safe from a child. So I was going to make something themed, and then I sort of kind of did, and then realized it didn't have almost anything for it. So I just made some sort of hot chocolate concoction. So it has hot chocolate mix, Kahlua, salted caramel Kahlua, BT dubs, some rum, and a little bit of peppermint schnapps with oat milk. That is all mixed together. It is quite tasty. I don't know what to call it, like discount mudslide or something. I don't know. It's
Iowa mudslide. Iowa mudslide. There you go.
It's an Iowa mudslide. There we go. Iowa mudslide. What about you, Paul? What beverage are you drinking?
I have a can of bubbly sparkling water, coconut pineapple flavored. Coconut pineapple flavor with other natural flavors. Actually, Configuration Queen is the person that turned me on to bubbly.
Oh, is it bubbly? Okay.
Me too.
Yeah. Paul, you will be happy to know my wife really loves root beer.
Yes!
So every time we go to a brewery and they have on tap any root beer, she just wants that immediately.
I love your wife.
There you go.
In a platonic, friendly, non-sexual
Trust
way.
me, Paul, I was not in any way threatened.
Your wife would probably kick my ass. I've met your wife, so I'm not going to get her
She can
angry
be
at me.
scary when she needs to be.
Yes, she can.
She really can. It's wild. Well, okay. So I think it goes without saying that since David wrote his dissertation on this film, it's probably important that David maybe does the summary for this about what this film... I mean, it's not going to be hard for David, both because he wrote his dissertation on it and because it's a 58-minute film, so there isn't a lot that really happens. But I think that would be a good idea for David to briefly summarize what The Flying Serpent is about. Go, David.
So it stars George Zucco as Professor Andrew Forbes, who has found Montezuma's treasure in some Aztec ruins in the town of, in quotes, Azteca in New Mexico. This treasure is also protected by the Flying Serpent of the title, Quetzalcoatl, and Andrew Forbes, being played by George Zucco, is therefore absolutely psychotic and it will kill anyone who might even indirectly bring people to within 100 miles of his treasure. And he does this by taking one of Quetzalcoatl's feathers, putting it on their person, and then Quetzalcoatl will fly down a wire and suck all their blood. A series of deaths draws the attention of mystery writer / radio reporter Richard Thorpe, played by Ralph Lewis, who comes to basically, in one of the ways in which this film is very far-seeing, do a true crime podcast as he solves the series of murders. This is Andrew Forbes' life is complicated by his stepdaughter starting to fall for Richard. Her name is Mary. She's played by Hope Kramer. And so he sets about trying to plant one of those feathers on Richard, but the feathers keep winding up with the wrong person, and he keeps killing more and more people. Usually, not necessarily the ones he wanted to kill, and so it goes.
Yeah, I think that covers it.
That covers it very well.
Very well. Well, with that in mind, I think we now need to get to our likes and dislikes about this kind of ridiculous film. I think it'd be fair to say, and we almost always do likes first anyway, but this is a film where the dislikes are probably going to be the meatiest, I suspect. So why don't we do likes? And so, because Paul was technically semi-forgotten in his role in this, I will start with Paul, of what Paul's like is. Out of love and respect for Paul.
Paul's like is oblique because because I am
muscle
that
group.
way.
You like the obliques?
No, it comes at a slightly different angle. The reason the like I have for this film is because of what it engendered in me remembering and thinking about, which are two things. I had one I was thinking of as we were watching this film on Monday. Patron, if you're a Patreon subscriber, you can watch these shows with us on Monday before we record this on Friday. While our Alphabet streams are live for everyone, for our Patreons, you can come and watch this for $1 a month on our Discord. There,
is that your
there's a plug for you, Shaun.
Is that your like?
What?
Your like is that you can watch these films with us, so we don't suffer alone?
No. That would be an even more terrible like than I had. No, this movie reminded me of two things. One, it reminded me of really need to see more archaeological ruins in the desert Southwest, especially in New Mexico. Although they kind of quasi make up one here, there is a national monument called Aztec Ruins. They could talk about Azteca Ruins, but there's really one that's called Aztec Ruins. It's not in the right part of the state for this movie, but... and
then again, these ruins are actually a matte painting in California, so...
Right, so yeah, so they made up an extra national monument for New Mexico, but it reminds me I really need to go see fun stuff in New Mexico, because I was supposed to go last year, but shingles kind of killed that idea. Maybe one day I'll get another bite at the apple. But anyway, that's one half of my like. It reminded me, yes, there are cool places in New Mexico to go to, which are real, that I could actually see. And this is the other half of it. It reminded me of an excellent book called The Fifth Sun, A New History of the Aztecs by Camilla Townsend, which talks about the history of the Aztec people as much as we know from their perspective, starting with their myths and legends and their own prehistory and trying to figure out where they came from, because... It's their own history was kind of mixed up with their own mythology, where they actually came from. It was somewhere up. It was originally somewhere in the desert Southwest, but the actual origins of that are kind of mysterious. So it reminded me how good the scholarship was in that book, and trying to piece together what we know and what we don't know, and trying to put it all together. So yes, The Fifth Sun, A New History of the Aztecs by Camille Townsend.
The irony is that this film was in no way filmed anywhere near anything vaguely Aztec in nature.
Or even Proto-Aztec. No, it wasn't.
Every single film location was in Los Angeles or West Hollywood. Yeah. So,
it did not have the grace to actually be filmed in New Mexico itself. No.
Well, I mean, in fairness, on-location films in 1946 were pretty rare and thin on the ground as it was, and would have been absolutely impossible for the studio that made this, PRC. That would have. I mean, we might as well have been expecting them to shoot on location on the moon.
Okay, that's fair.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're correct, right? This is a lot. What is pretty much everything for the most part. I mean, films, I imagine some of them would have been shot on quote unquote locations, but
there were some, but it was still
not.
like when you look at something like Kiss of Death from around the same time, and it's shot on location in New York, and that was a big deal, right? That's one of the advertising features of it. But it's, we're still deep in the studio system. Essentially any film made in Hollywood is going to be shot in Hollywood, on the studios, on sound stages, or
the back lot
on
or whatever.
exterior standing sets, or the very familiar landscape that you saw there, which is hosted, westerns, likely in the thousands.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the some of the flying shots were in Bronson Canyon, the temple, which is basically Los Angeles,
ubiquitous, and
and then you've got obviously PRC Studios for probably the majority of the sets, and then the temple exterior scenes are shot at Iverson Ranch, which I don't actually know what Iverson Ranch is, but I'm going to assume it's not really a ranch, like in the sense that we mean.
Well, it'd be probably the kind of thing where, probably the most infamous Hollywood ranch was at Spawn Ranch, right? Which where the Manson family set up shop. But there were all these ranches that were used, to kind of rent themselves out as locations for Hollywood films. So they were, ranches in that sense, rather than the actual working cattle ranch.
Oh, so. So IMDb should have labeled it properly as probably the Iverson Location Movie Ranch, which is probably where a lot of westerns were shot. That's what I'm gonna guess. There is a Blogspot page. I don't know how legitimate it is, but it says this is a blog about the Iverson Movie Ranch, which has is circa 2010 link infrastructure. I'll just say, but. Lots and lots of information about Star Trek episodes shot there, westerns, all kinds of stuff.
That would make a lot of sense. Yeah,
I mean that's really cool. I'm also very, very film nerdy.
In chat, Lorraine is asking about the rocks in Star Trek. That's
which rocks? You mean the one where he builds a rudimentary lathe?
But yes, the one where he fights the Gord. That set outside of Los Angeles. I can't think of the name of it offhand. I know
there's a very famous set of rocks that shows up in every western.
The Vasquez Rocks in Southern California.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. You can find this on the Wikipedia page. I'll just note it's just buried on the wiki page.
Those rocks also play the role of Tibet in Werewolf of London.
See, this is why you should be on the show more often, David. You give us all these fun facts.
Although, on the one hand, it's a little ridiculous. So, we're in Aztec land, and we're filming on sets we've designed, and we put up some hole in a rock thing so that you can go inside the secret temple or whatever. But on the other hand, it's if you think about the economics of flying a whole film crew to some, far off land to film in a real place, that's even in 1946 is not exactly that easy to do. And then you just think but this is not that many years removed from the height of the silent film era, when they're building some of the most absurdly lavish sets. Isn't there, David, you might know this, there's a silent film where they attempt to recreate Babylon and the gates of
Intolerance.
Babylon. Yeah.
Intolerance. And you get to see that set burn in Gone with the Wind when they do the burning of Atlanta.
That's bananas.
There was a Cleopatra version they built in the sands northwest of Los Angeles. It got buried in the sands.
And but also we're talking about the difference in scale, right? Because you look at and we'll get to some of this perhaps in more detail later, but this is a film that's produced by PRC, the Producers Releasing Corporation, which was pretty much the lowest of the low of the Poverty Row studios. And so these were movies that were made in a matter of days, and then at the other end of the scale, you've got the big five studios, right? Paramount, 20th Century Fox, Warner Brothers, MGM, and RKO. And you had the mini majors that were Universal and United Artists. But the big five, who also owned pretty much all the movie theaters and controlled what went in there. I mean, they could do these big productions, right? So around the same time as the Flying Serpent, you're going to get Duel in the Sun, which was a monumentally huge Western epic with derailing trains and the most one of the most over the top shootouts at the end, where Jennifer Jones and Gregory Peck slowly shoot each other to pieces and then die orgasmically in each other's arms, right? And over this incredible landscape. So you have these kinds of mega productions that are certainly doable and possible. You're obviously you're still not going to be getting on location you're not going to get a lot of live European locations for standard American films. Well, most of those locations were otherwise occupied in the years prior to 1946. So there's, I mean, and also remember too, with the in the silent era, there was that fact of no sound,
Yeah,
right, which meant that there's a lot of stuff that was a lot easier to do.
Yeah.
So all of which means that when we're looking at something coming out of Monogram or PRC or the other Poverty Row outfits, they're absolutely limited in what is physically possible to do. Now, most of the films being made again in Hollywood at this time are going to be shot on sound stages at the studios in and around Los Angeles in the first place, regardless of where they take place. Casablanca, to name one. But for the Poverty Row studios, I mean, like again, the films are going to be churned out in like a week. On the catering budget of even the mid-range studios. You're not going to go anywhere that's more than a 20-minute drive.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
Yeah. Although, in fairness to this film, it was shown on the television 3 years after its release.
Because that's something else that happens, right? Was we get to the 1950s and the rise of television, the collapse of the studio system, where the antitrust suit means that the big five have to divest themselves of the theaters that they own, and television rises. I mean, this year, I think 1946, is in fact the record year, right? As far as movie-going attendance is concerned, this is the highest rate of movie attendance ever.
Wow!
Right? And then it's all downhill after that. Right, and large part thanks to TV. And so another reason to always remember that whenever we hear about box offices records being broken, it's a fairly meaningless statistic if it's not being adjusted for inflation, because people do not go to movies in anywhere near the numbers that they used to. In 1946, you're likely going to movies several times a week, and everybody's going. So it's all been downhill since then. And anyway, as television expands in the early 50s, they need content, and so this is one of the reasons why, let's say, the Universal films, like with the whole Monster Kid syndrome happens, and the Universal horror movies get their immortality for another generation because they're sold to TV as part of the I think the shock theater package, and so kids see these over and over and over and over and over again on TV. And things like the Flying Serpent and other stuff from the Poverty Row outfits. I mean, by the 50s, PRC is no more. They've been swallowed up by Eagle Lion. A lot of as if the big studios are having their problems in the early 50s, the minor studios are just vanishing. So all this stuff is falling into the public domain.
Yeah.
right? And so this is very cheap stuff to show. So that's why the Little Rascals and all these 30s westerns beyond counting and movies like this wind up on TV years and years to follow.
Where the hell did you learn all this, David?
Did my dissertation on the movie, remember?
Well, okay, yes.
maybe listeners, watchers don't realize how steep David is and how knowledgeable he is and how he does it for a living. Besides writing books.
He's a film scholar. Like, he knows his
exactly.
film.
So it's like maybe listeners and watchers don't know that because it's been a while since they've been on the show. So it bears witness that this is David's kung fu. It is strong.
Yeah, but like usually David's nice enough to like make it so that I don't seem like an idiot. And this is one of those moments where like I say some one little minor comment and he gives like a freaking lecture, which is a great lecture.
It's like pulling a cord on a. I mean, for a movie like this, it's like pulling a cord on a Cupid doll, right? So, yeah. You need me to shut up? Please let me know.
No. I just need need like a reading list, David. Like there's like amounts of knowledge that's in your head.
And watching list.
I know like little pieces of the story you just told, right? But like I could not spin that narrative that you just did. There's like no way I could be able to put all those pieces together in like a narrative. I don't have the knowledge.
And now I want to know what David thinks of Hail Caesar, but that's a different movie and a different podcast.
Should we get to David's like?
We probably should.
Okay, David, what's your like in this movie?
Well, would it be surprising you to say that I don't know where to start?
But
no.
Unsurprised.
You put George Zuko in the movie, and I'm going to be overjoyed. So it's so fun to see him at any time. But I will say, just in general, that this movie embodies one of the things that I love so much about a lot of poverty horror movies, and in particular the ones to come out from PRC. So movies like the Flying Serpent, The Devil Bat, Dead Man Walk, even at their tattiest and most threadbare budgeted situations, I find that the PRC horror films deliver the groceries. They consider how this film begins. It basically says, "Oh, you came to see a flying serpent? Well, here it is immediately." Right? And bear in mind that the print we're watching is in absolutely shoddy condition. This, like a lot of the other films of this kind, are crying out for a proper restoration. So it wouldn't have looked as murky as it did to us if you saw it in 1946. So yeah, it's a cheesy looking monster, but notice that we get a lot of that monster. Right? You came to see a monster.
Not shy about him, yeah.
Here it is, right? In 58 minutes, you're going to get this monster over and over and over again. This is, I will certainly grant, one of the one of their lesser efforts, which I realize to some people might say that be a sentence a little bit. It's like, this is one of Uwe Boll's lesser movies, but. I mean, if you want to get an idea of just how good, how atmospheric, how striking the little offerings from PRC could be, I highly recommend watching Strangler of the Swamp, directed by Frank Wismar, or Edgar G. Ulmer's Bluebeard. Both of them, really, really good films. Strangler of the Swamp, one of the only instances really of a ghost showing up in American cinema. I mean, there weren't, by 1946, right? There were hardly any, and that's a really good one. And if just in terms of sheer entertainment value, if the Flying Serpent isn't up to its very obvious model, The Devil Bat, about which more later, it brings what it sets out to bring. Like, it is what it says on the tin, and as it delivers everything that it promises over the course of that 58 minutes. And we're watching. This is As you can probably guess, not the first time I've watched this film. Nor the
No.
second. It's
Ah.
to be honest, when I sort of in the kind of joy per minute that a movie like this gives me, uh, if I had to choose between watching this or again or say Infinity Wars, Flying Serpent would win every time. Uh, and so yeah, just in general terms, that the film gives us what it promised, and that's a really big like for me.
Wow. Okay.
It's
Okay.
kind of hard to follow that. I'm glad you had me go first, Sean.
Lerleni in chat wants to know from you, David. Have you seen it in a good print copy?
No, I've been looking for one. I have the version I have on DVD. As far as I can tell, it's the same murky, probably 16 millimeter print scan that I've that also appears to be on YouTube.
Okay.
This is a source of considerable frustration for me in that most of these films are still just not getting a proper restoration. The Blu-ray of I was just watching Monogram's Return of the Ape Man today, and it's still it's pretty rough too. I've seen some pretty decent things versions of VRC's The Monster Maker, Monogram's Invisible Ghost, but most on the one hand, these films are all in the public domain and very, very easy to see. Right, this is one of the reasons why they've hung around. Flying Serpent is in fact one of the more obscure ones. Right, it doesn't have anywhere near the same kind of visibility as The Devil Bat, but like even when you in the glory days of the bargain basement DVD packs, 50 horror movies and that
I
sort of
remember
thing.
those, yes.
Yeah. So you're guaranteed to get a bunch of Monogram and PRC films, right? Like Devil
Oh,
Bat, Black Dragons, and Men Walk. They're all going to be there, and almost always in pretty crappy prints. So I'm hoping that the day isn't too far away where someone will give us a really nice restored box set. But yeah, I haven't been able to find anything better than what we've seen for Flying Serpent. Not for want of trying.
It would just make me happy if like some billionaire somewhere was like, instead of being a turd on the internet, I'm just gonna take all that money to like preserving culture and just fork that into film preservation, language preservation, like documenting cultures that are probably gonna die out soon because there's no practitioners of it. Like that's what I'm gonna use my money for, not like, trying to destroy the world because I just want to be richer, even though I can't possibly reasonably spend this money. Anyway, sorry, I could
yeah.
go on.
True. At least we do have boutique labels like Vinegar Syndrome and Severin, who are certainly doing the Lord's work with preserving all kinds of things like this. Severin is just, finally we're getting proper Blu-ray restorations of some of Russ Meyer's films. Vinegar Syndrome recently put out a very lovely set of of Ed Wood's latter day pornography. We There's been a recent on Kickstarter. There was a successful campaign to do a restoration of the 1926 film The Bat. If there was no The Bat, there would be no Batman. So that that's one of the long-term impacts of that film, and they've done a really really nice job. But it looks absolutely stunning. The 1927, I think it is, version of the Gorilla has recently been rediscovered. That's been thought that was all my life that was thought lost, and now it's been found. So I'm hoping we get a nice restoration of that. So there are reasons for hope that these films too will get that treatment. I mean, of course, it always depends on what materials survive, right? If there aren't any negatives, that's going to make it a lot harder. Uh,
from Vinegar Syndrome, a new version of
Existence.
Existence.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yes, they did a new version this year, so it's like I had to have this. It's the first time I've actually heard of Vinegar Syndrome, but yeah, it's a really good addition.
They do incredible stuff. It's today one of the films that they've just announced the release of is the Blu-ray of The Keep.
I saw that. I opened the page. Yeah.
Yeah, and they also do all sort. I mean, Severin is one of the things they've done is the 2-volume set of all the Hauntsby Hours, the huge collections of folk horror from all over the world.
Oh.
And these are like graduate film courses in a box, right? You're going to get multiple commentary tracks, often very lovely books with them. The complete Black Emmanuel run. I mean, the kinds of films that when they were initially released would have been seen as the lowest of the low are now getting these ultra deluxe packages from these places, and looking absolutely spectacular. So Vinegar Syndrome actually recently did The Cat Creeps, not the lost version, but one from the 40s. So they have started to venture into some older films as well. Cool. So you never know what might be down the pike with them.
Nice.
Oh, man. I wish I had more money.
Don't we all, Shaun? Don't we all?
Yeah. I mean, like, we could do a whole thing where, like, David and I and Paul could just, like, have a conversation about the importance of preserving film and making it available so that people can get it, and that the streaming industry doesn't really make that entirely possible, despite obviously opening up access for a lot of stuff that is probably otherwise wouldn't be seen by people, because now you can put it for basically nothing on a streaming service and people could watch it if they wanted to. Thank you, Tubi, for sometimes putting on like really obscure horror films from like the 50s or whatever that nobody would normally see. But we don't have time to do that. But we should do an episode where we just kvetch for an hour.
What's your like, Shaun?
Oh,
yeah,
boy.
What is your like, Shaun?
So, I'm going to be honest, that my favorite thing was the utter absurdity of the, like, guy, the, like, mystery writer Thorpe. It's Thorpe, right? Is it Thorpe?
Yeah, I think it's Richard Thorpe.
Right, because there's Forbes and then Thorpe, and they kind of sound the same, but it's Richard Thorpe, yeah. His whole thing is he's a mystery writer who has gotten sent by a news station in the U.S. down into Mexico to like research these mysterious killings that keep happening because people keep dying in mysterious ways, and so what's really going on? And I guess his American studio manager is he's not present. And so he keeps hearing the like bizarre story of like people having their blood sucked out of them, and there might be a creature and all of these things, and going, "What did you get me into, Smalls? What's wrong with you? How did you manage to like get this lunatic on here? Because we're gonna get laughed off the air." Which, in fairness, yeah, kind of. But also, it's like really fun as an idea. Of like you send a guy in to do these reports where he's like doing inquisitions and all of these things to figure out
inquests, not inquisitions, Shaun.
Inquestitions, whatever, and trying to figure out like what's really going on, and it's clear he has suspects in mind, and then things get like really heady. So there's like at the beginning. It's just like it's like monster mystery, right? Because we, as you pointed out, David, we see the monster, but later on it becomes like a whodunit essentially, which is kind of
how
fun.
Catch him?
Yeah, or like a catch. Yeah, like exactly. I found that kind of fun, even though it's kind of ridiculous. And I think if they had added a little more to that, I wouldn't have been upset.
And I think it's worth remembering too that films like this they know how absurd that is, right?
Yeah.
just to give a couple of other examples. So if we look at The Devil Bat, which has the same screenwriter as the Flying Serpent, there instead of a radio reporter, it's a newspaper journalist who comes to do the same thing, and walks into the sheriff's office. I'm going to help you solve this, and the sheriff's like, "Oh, great! I can use all the help I could get." But at any rate, you know that the film knows exactly what it is when you get one of the newspaper headline shots, and this umpteenth murder by the Devil Bat or whatever is the main headline. But just above the fold, there's a smaller story, and its headline reads, "Pericles the Great Athenian Speaks." So. Right, or in The Ape Man, there's a character who keeps popping up, kind of like watching what's going on, and being very amused, sort of kind of redirecting some characters. Oh, you got to ask this person about something. Yeah, you're going to enjoy this. At one point, there's this woman who's about to be attacked by the Ape Man, but she gets but this guy suddenly pops out of nowhere and sends her going down the other side of the street. And so she's fine. And he seems to be everywhere and looking at everything. And we never know, like, who is this guy? Right. Well, finally, at the end of the film, when everything's fine, and then suddenly he's sitting in the hero's car, and the hero just like, "Okay, why are you in my car? And who are you?" And he says, "Oh, me? I'm the writer. I wrote this story. Pretty silly, isn't it?" And then rolls up the windscreen that reads the end. All right.
What?
So, yeah. So
that is so metafictional.
Yeah, there's a fairly high degree of that in some of these films, right? So it's not like they didn't know that Flying Serpent looked ridiculous, right? They knew exactly what it looked like. And like what you were describing, Shaun, with the reporter. I mean, when you keep flashing back to the studio, and his manager constantly,
freaking out.
Freaking out is like, we're going off the air and this and that, and it's but also, well, what about the treasure, right? I mean, humor and horror are their DNA is absolutely together they form the DNA of the horror film in many ways, and there is less the overt comic relief in The Flying Serpent than there are in a lot of other movies, especially in the 30s or the 20s. But nonetheless, it's there too, right? And the stuff that you're thinking, well, that's pretty funny. Yeah, it was meant to be.
Yeah, it's so fun. It has moments, I'll say, David. Just moments.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, it's is this Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein? No, it's not. I'm not going to make that argument.
Okay, David. I played for my students, my current relatively young students, the Who's on First bit from Abbott and Costello, because it's a classic, right? I figured they'd really get a kick out of it. I was the only person laughing in the room.
I feel sad. I feel ashamed.
I'm not surprised, but yeah.
I felt like my soul left at that moment. Like there was just it's over. I'm 41 years old. Like I will never be cool again. It's over for me. How could you not like it? Like, Who's on First? Like it's a great bit. It's great.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No argument there, but yeah. No, I've had the same experience, if that helps.
No, it just reminds me that our society is slowly collapsing, and one day we'll just be amoeba again. Well, should we do dislikes?
We probably should do dislikes. Oh, well, God,
Paul,
that means I go...
Yeah, it's you first. And you can't take David's because you already know what David's is.
Do I? I'm not sure I know David.
I assume so, because he's got another lecture to give.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah, I think Shaun knows what it is. Anyway.
I feel bad about pouring scorn on this torture cinema movie because it's such a movie that David likes so much. But honestly, and for true, while it does Well, okay, so I'm going to give you the tag. First, I'll give you the tagline I was going to do if I was going to do the tagline for this episode, and that is, "As God is my witness, I knew that feathered serpents could fly." Which, of course, my WKRP reference. Yeah. But anyway, so yeah, the feathered serpent, our Quetzalcoatl in this movie, it does fly. We do get to see a lot of it, but it doesn't look large enough to be a credible physical threat to anybody. I'm not even sure it could beat up a chihuahua, much less kill people again and again and again. I mean, what's the thing? The size of a large cat? I'm like, this is the giant threat? This is the monster? Are you kidding? I mean, yes, I understand there's no budget for these things, and trying to get it to be large and fly would have been practically impossible. It just looks like it's like a large cat flight with wings flying around. I mean, if they could have explained it, they could have added a little bit to the plot. Say it's venomous. Now, I didn't say poisonous, Shaun, because I know better thanks to you. If it was venomous, that would make sense. Okay, the thing's venomous, it bites you, you die. That's fine. But it doesn't even go that far. It just apparently just attacks people and they suddenly die. It's like, no, I think I could beat this thing off, and I'm not a physically violent person. And it's killed multiple people. I'm sorry. It breaks my sense of suspension of disbelief. It's flying around. I can just take a baseball bat and knock it into Arizona with a good swing.
Yeah, I'd have to say that I put that. I mean, you're not wrong, even though I'd probably put that as one of my likes. I mean, because they're so shameless in their use of it, right? Again, you want the monster. Here's the monster. Does it look like crap? Well, too bad. But here it is.
I mean, it looks like it's just small. It looks crappy. It's just small for what it's supposed to do. And they could have fixed it and say, oh yes, the feathered serpent's also venomous and the bite would be fatal. That plugs the hole and everything is fine. They could have done that, and I would have to find a different dislike. Not that it would be hard, but that would have taken away. But otherwise, it's just a cat-sized reptile. No,
it's not a reptile. It's got
dislike will be relative.
Well, cat-sized dinosaur descendant.
Yes.
Well, and this is the other way in which this film is very far-seeing, right? Because not only does it anticipate true crime podcasts, it also gives us dinosaurs with feathers.
That's true. I mean, there were kind of thoughts about that way back when, but yes, even before the 1990s. But yes, it does kind of accidentally anticipate dinosaurs with feathers, as well as live true crime podcasts with inquests.
And you're right about I mean, it does look so ridiculous. I mean, what really struck me this time around, as far as the monster concerned, were I think two moments. One, which I think is really to your point, after our hero is shot and killed it, and we just see this little bundle of rags on the ground, and you have to expect him to give it a kick, right?
Yeah.
But we just see it, but then. Conversely, there's that moment where we have the two guys, hiding in the cave behind the grill.
Right.
And that moment when it flies up to the grill, and it's really fast. It's a really short, really, there's a really quick cut. And it's sort of Tasmanian devil style at the gate. And in that moment, right, it's a small one, but in that tiny moment, it actually comes across as threatening.
Okay, I'll give you that. I'll give you that moment, that one moment, that attack. Actually, it seems like it could rough me up. Otherwise, no.
We may only be talking about 12 frames of the film, but nonetheless.
Otherwise, I am not afraid. But them trapped in the cave, cat with the grill and the thing coming at them. Okay, that was generally. Oh God, this thing could mess us up some.
Yeah.
What's your dislike, David?
That's wild.
Go ahead, Shaun. You can say something.
I just think weirdly enough, the model of Quetzalcoatl in this, it's such as it is. It's not really Quetzalcoatl. It's just like a feathered serpent monster thing / dinosaur. But weirdly enough, that was the thing that did not bother me that much. Normally, I'd be rather annoyed. You're telling me it's a serpent, it's a lizard, all of these things, and you would think thered be a rant coming. But yet every time they showed it, I was like, well, thank goodness this is in black and white because I see almost nothing. And so it kind of just works as being mysterious and being like the moment when we finally see it like outside flying around, it's like, okay, yeah, it's a little small. It's not really much of a threat, but also like I'm kind of okay with it because I don't expect this to be like the budget just isn't. It's very clear the budget's shoestring, right? It's not a big budget, so I'm like, oh, they did kind of well with no money, and so I'm not upset by it. I don't know why. Like other films we've watched of like they spent 150 grand and they made like a tree monster that like barely moves, and I'm like, okay, well, you could have done a little better job there. But in this one, I'm just kind of like, nah, I'm fine.
Now I need to rewatch that one again too. But anyway.
Right, the tree monster from I forget the name of the movie, but yeah.
Hell It Came.
Yeah, from Hell It Came. Yeah, which like that one doesn't really work, and it's because they spend so much time showing it like lumber, like for like 8-minute shot or whatever. In this, I just felt like
saw what you did there with the lumber pun.
Yeah.
Oh, he didn't even intend it. That's even worse, Sean. You didn't even intend the pun.
Anyway, the point is, I just guess I wasn't that bothered. I just thought there was so much use of unintentional as it may have been shadow to make it sort of mysterious and strange. I couldn't really see it, and I felt like that.
Yeah,
did a
that
lot
was
of good
the print.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was it. When it's the stuff inside the cave where we couldn't see a darn thing. That was the print quality. We would have been able to see it there.
Well, don't fix that. Don't fix that. Well, what about your dislike, David? You're going to give us our lecture now?
Yeah, that's right. Well, I mean, I've mentioned the Devil Bat already a couple of times, and so this was a PRC film from 1940 with Bela Lugosi, same screenwriter as The Flying Serpent, and boy, can you tell, right? Because it's essentially the same story. Right? It's Bela Lugosi instead of George Zucco. It's a giant bat instead of a flying serpent. It's tracking people via aftershave instead of feathers. It's a newspaper journalist instead of a radio reporter, but it's all the same elements. And here, certainly given a choice between the Devil Bat and the Flying Serpent, I would take the Devil Bat every time. It is incredibly entertaining. The way in which Bela Lugosi hands over his special aftershave to his victims and just says goodbye, and the body count that gets racked up is wonderful. And I think the Paul, you might even speaking to your dislike. I'd be curious to know what you thought of if you the monster and the Devil Bat, because though it is roughly the same size in terms of a prop flying down a wire as the Flying Serpent, I think it is considerably more effective because bats aren't supposed to be this big, right? So as opposed to a serpent monster that's too small, it's a bat that's too big.
And it's also more logical to drain blood than the serpent monster. That's another thing annoying about this thing. This thing drains blood. It's like, what serpent drains blood ever? That's not how serpents eat. That's not how serpents eat. But a devil bat, this thing drains blood just like this one, right? That I could buy. A vampire devil bat draining blood. Okay, I'm on board.
Okay, fine. So we'll go with that. And I think in the first place, then the Flying Serpent is a very obvious retread of the Devil Bat, hitting almost all the same beats, but doing so in a far more repetitive way, right? Though both films have lots of shots of the bad guy opening up the shutter or pulling the lever, and then we get the same repeated footage of the monster flying away and going after its attackers. The stuff in between is feels faster paced and more engaging. So the again, it may perhaps be a bit strange to say that watching The Flying Serpent makes you appreciate the achievement of the Devil Bat all the more. I think it does have that effect. In fact, it's not impossible that I'm going to rewatch The Devil Bat for the umpteenth time tonight, having just rewatched The Flying Serpent. So it is a carbon copy, and as we know, carbon copies are, well, as those of us ancient enough to know, are somewhat smudged and not as clear as the originals.
Have you ever used a carbon copy for real, Shaun?
I've never used it, but I know what it is.
You see, David's used one and I've used one, so that counts more than you know what carbon copy is. Sorry.
No. I existed at the time that you could do this. I just was...
But you never actually did it.
I never did it myself, but that doesn't mean I didn't see other people do that.
Weren't obliged to learn how to do it in school, though, were you?
I was like 9.
What
the hell am I carbon copying? What am I doing at 9 years old? Oh, let me get my lunch list. Like, I'll just carbon copy that for you. Oh man, that like story I wrote about the evil hand that strangles you in your sleep. Let's carbon copy that. Like, I wrote that.
Notice
how
he's talking about carbon copies as if you could do them after the fact.
I know, it's like that's not how that works. I mean, the company I worked for was kind of outdated, and when I first started, we had these old claim forms that had a carbon copy in them. So when you filled out the claim form, you had the bottom actually. So that was 2010.
No,
so,
I get it. It's the thing where the second sheet, like when you type on it or whatever, the second sheet has the things on it. Got it. Yeah.
Right, that's a carbon copy, Shaun.
I got it. Calm down. Fudge off. I get it, because carbon copy also is the CC we use in emails. I get it. Got it.
Right, yes.
I get it. I understand.
Which is out. I know.
I have actually done this. There just was no reason for me to have done it other than funsies. Because I had a printer and it had the ability to do like a carbon copy, but like at that point there was no real reason for me to have done it.
Anyway, sorry to derail the whole carbon. Yes, the Flying Serpent is a bad carbon copy of the Devil Bat. That was David's point. Please continue, David. Yeah.
Just let you can buy carbon copy paper on the internet still.
I suppose you can also.
I'm literally on Amazon right now. I can get a thing of 100 pieces of carbon tracing paper, carbon copy paper, blue carbon paper, black carbon paper, graphite, right now for $10.25. I don't know if that's what that actually is, but you know what? Pretend like it is. Anyway,
I'm not going to pretend what I'm going to ask you next. And what is your dislike? That's what I'm going to pretend.
Is that mine? Oh, is that are we on me now?
Yep. We're on you now, Shaun.
Sorry, I'm genuinely curious why anyone is buying carbon copy paper at this point. Why is that a thing people are buying? Do we still do this?
Well, I know as recent as 15 years ago, yes. At least in my case.
It's 2024, Paul.
Yes, I know.
Art class?
Maybe. I don't know. Who knows?
I still have my manual typewriter, so I could still use some of that.
Yeah, but that just kind of makes you kind of chic, you know? A little bit.
Well,
so there you go. There you go. Image. That's why people still buy that stuff.
Image is everything.
Okay, well, my dislike for this film, since we are now officially at recording time that is in excess of the film's actual runtime, by the way.
That's hilarious.
Which is ridiculous. My dislike for this film is... I don't quite understand the plot.
I'm sure David can explain this to you.
Oh, I'm sure David could explain it. But I found that, like, I just didn't understand the main, what is it, Forbes. We literally had to rewind it when we did the live watch, because we were like, didn't he intentionally drop the feather? And we were like, why is he intentionally dropping feathers? And they were like, well, no, but he's acting really like he's very upset by the fact that he's going to go talk to the guy and make everything fine, but he doesn't. He goes and kills him instead. So much of the plot, I don't. Is he just protecting a treasure, or is he getting?
He's keeping it for himself.
I mean,
That's it.
he says that at the beginning. He's rich and he loves it, but he doesn't want anyone else to know about it. I mean, it's a treasure he can't spend or do anything with, but he doesn't want anyone else to touch it. It's a very,
I think,
very sick.
go on.
But
Yeah, it's sort of a sickness.
Kind of dog in the manger kind of thing. But that does, I mean, I think that does point to the sort of one of the weaknesses of the retread, right? Because in The Devil Bat, Lugosi is killing off everyone to get revenge for, again, money is involved, but he feels like he was cheated out of the money that was rightfully his from this cosmetics empire that he helped found. And so he's getting back at everyone that he blames for that, right? So it's the motivation is clear. Like right away we know what he's up to and why. And here, yeah, it's a little more. I mean, for instance, I think to your point, Shaun, when for the opening murder. Now, because of George Zuko, I mean, he's up to no good, right? I mean, it's that's his thing. Probably his highest profile role, or one of his higher profile roles at a major studio, was as Professor Moriarty in the second Basil Rathbone Sherlock Holmes film, The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. But anyway, he like Bela Lugosi, he's almost. You're going to assume he's a villain unless shown proven otherwise. In that first murder, he's his pretending to be nicey nice is an obvious pretense. The problem is that it's not clear why killing this guy is going to help keep people away, since the article's already been published. And it obviously has the reverse effect. In fact, in many ways, he's not a very good bad guy, because everything he does just draws more attention, and he keeps killing the wrong guy.
Right.
Because the whole feather technique seems to be a little prone to error and chance, and But again, this is a guy.
Bela Lugosi's aftershave was much more targeted.
Yeah, and I mean, and when Bela Lugosi at the end of The Devil Bat gets splashed with his aftershave, well, okay, fucked, right? But all Zuko had to do was drop the goddamn feather as he's running away from the serpent, or not leave the cave in the first place, right?
Right.
So
why does he leave? Just stay there.
Well, because he has to die. But so the movie can end. But yeah, so that stuff isn't as smooth, and I think I think like Paul said, I think at least I found the plot fairly straightforward, but I would agree with you that it's a mechanism, like you could kind of feel the gears slipping a little bit.
Yeah.
It's not you don't have this, oh yeah, I get it forward progression that you get with the Devil Bat.
But it's made worse there's like inconsistencies in this of things that are just not, like, why does Quetzalcoatl, if that's what it actually is, why exactly does it live in a cage and then come back? Why would it ever come back? This dude keeps stealing your feathers. Why would you come back to your hole?
Is this your home?
Well, you can make a new one.
A feathered serpent's home is his castle.
He's there to guard the treasure.
It doesn't explicitly. That's the way I took it, Shaun. There's like, oh yeah, it's obviously there for the treasure. Although no one ever says that anywhere at any point. That's why I just assumed, oh yeah, it's a treasure guardian, obviously. So and he's manipulating the treasure guardian. But it doesn't explain that in the text anywhere. I had to kind of conjure that out of my brain, but that's the way I took it.
But like, is it actually the god, or is it just like an animal?
Well, the film is kind of vague, right? In that there's suggestions of it being some kind of, I mean, like it, as a number of films would do. Essentially, it's hand waving. It's not something that we're not used to now, too. But with some films, I think some others from this period, you're given a few possible explanations about the thing, and you don't necessarily know which, if any, are correct. Right? There's
Okay.
speculation about what this thing is. Oh, it's a survivor of, of the dinosaur age, or it's an actual feathered god, right? Or both, but it's not. We're not
Okay,
given
knows.
yeah, but in many ways, that I think that ultimately the film is saying that doesn't matter. Right? What matters is that there's a monster that guards this treasure, and we'll go after its feathers. That's what you need to know. That's all we're going to tell you.
I hate it. It just
I kind of figured
there's
it.
so much about the plot of this movie where, like, on the one hand, I should be happy. It's 58 minutes long, and so it is mercilessly short for not a very good film. On the other hand, it's like, but you have so many things here that are not properly explained in a way that makes it make sense. Like, why is the lady and the radio man getting together other than that's what the plot requires? Because they don't, as far as I can tell, actually go on any dates. And yet at the end, they're going to get hitched.
And that's a very, very common shorthand with B pictures of this time, right? I mean, these are films that have to be only an hour long, right? They're there to support the A pictures on double bills. There's certain shorthands that the audience, like you'll see in dozens and dozens, like films, like, that there's a couple that they get together at the end. Why? Well, because they're the male lead and the female lead, so they get together. But you're not given any other. You're not given any reason to see why they would get together, but just because they must, right? It's an expected trope. So it would be strange if it didn't happen. Seeing it in that context.
Well, they made bad decisions. The jerks. Not happy. Not happy about it. I mean, in fairness, I know we're getting basically the end now. Like, I didn't hate this movie. There are some films we've watched where I'm just like, at the end of it, I'm like, my God, I can't, it's over. Thank goodness. This is one where it's it's not good, but like, I had fun. So, I mean, is it Mac and Me? No, it's not a great American classic, but
oh God, don't troll us.
But it's fine. I mean, like David, you said at the very beginning, it basically does exactly what it says it's going to do, mostly, and it doesn't do it well per se. But it's, other than being kind of bizarrely, like, it doesn't need to be Aztec at all. It could just be anything else at this point. The Aztec thing is like a neither here nor there. It's just a weird bit of erasure, which I find bizarre. But it's a revenge plot, a hate plot. It's got a monster creature that is being semi-controlled, and bizarre filming choices in terms of like introducing us, as David, you say, to the true crime podcasters we've always been waiting for. It's fine.
If producer director Sam Newfield had heard you say these very words, right, that it's fine, it wasn't great, but it was good, it was fine, he would have taken that as a standing ovation.
I mean, didn't Leonard Maltin or somebody give it like a C+? No, it was Dennis Schwartz. Although Leonard Maltin only gave it 2 out of 4, so...
Shaun, you can't go by this. I remember, this is a completely side note, when Siskel and Ebert were fighting and they reviewed the movie Carnosaur, and Ebert hated it, and Siskel gave it a thumbs up just to piss off Roger Ebert.
Yeah, but Siskel was, I mean, nobody likes Siskel.
But they put it on the movie posters, thumbs up, I like this movie. Gene Siskel was like, yes, because you were fighting with Ebert for months during that show, and you just wanted to piss him off.
Yeah, but like, I mostly trust Leonard Maltin on film. I mean, it is David's doppelganger, and he gave it 2 out of 4 stars, which is not necessarily good per se, but like not risible to the point of hatred. So, yeah, that's where I'm at. I mean, I'm not giving it a C plus. I'll just be honest, that's not happening. But that's because it's not actually a good film. It's just not like I could have been more offended if they did red face in this, where they just had like some white guy pretending to be native or something. Then I would be angry. But like, it's just it's a nothing burger. This film is a nothing burger. That's it.
I mean, it is. I mean, on the related note, it's. I mean, obviously, you're not going to expect anything on that front to be really within shouting distance of progressive in this era. But the fact that in the opening crawl, right? Cortez certainly doesn't come across well. Just a campaign of murder and looting is how that's described.
Yeah.
And then what do we have in what follows is our central character, the absolutely rapacious white man who will stop at nothing, including multiple murder, to keep a treasure that he's never going to do anything with. I mean, we've got. I mean, he is a kind of sort of a nice little embodiment of rapacious capitalism.
Yeah.
In his character,
he just wants to possess the treasure. He doesn't want to do anything with it. Yeah, he just wants to have this treasure, which is a way. I kind of like his. He doesn't like treasure hunters. He'd rather have real archaeologists. But he has this treasure, and he's just going to like sit on it. And he's proud of the fact, oh, yes, I'm rich, but nobody knows or cares, and you don't do anything with it or show these treasures to the outside world or. He
doesn't even seem interested in archaeology. He just, like, discovered it and then stopped. Like, at least the, like, ornithologist guy.
Yeah. Well, no, but what we have in his character is really, it shows us the absolutely corrupting power of wealth. That really this film could stand side by side with the Treasure of the Sierra Madre in its portrayal of same. Just happens a lot faster, like before the opening credits.
Damn.
Oh, ridiculous. This film's ridiculous. Well, okay, we got to grade this and stop because we do
because we're
15 now 10 minutes over the runtime. Just to be clear.
But the runtime was short, so that's not hard. Well, I mean, in the days when we did 3-hour-long torture cinemas, that was something. But anyway,
well, we used to do 5x5s, which I'm still grumpy about that we took away. So, Paul, your final thought and grade, please.
Okay, my final thought. I mean, it wasn't an offensively bad movie. I mean, yes, I guess I kvetched about the Quetzalcoatl being mostly non-threatening. It was a pleasant enough thing to watch that I even watched it again just to make sure I understood everything for this movie. That's why I don't do that for. So I don't do that for lots of torture cinemas. If I'll watch it on Monday with you and just go with whatever I remembered. But I actually sat down to watch this thing again, and it's fine. It's as David said, this is a B movie to support an A movie in a double bill, and it does that. I mean, sadly and tragically, it's a carbon copy of a better film, The Devil Bat. So I'm not going to give it that high a grade because it's basically hitting beats that a better movie can do. And as a result, it kind of comes up kind of distorted as a result, and not always to its own benefit. So I'm going to be nice and give this a C-.
Okay, David, your turn. Final thought and grade.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really disagree with anything Paul said there. I mean, obviously, I do have a lot of fun with it. I mean, there are all sorts of little joys in it. Just the constant deployment of that matte painting, which I find does just a really nice. But it instantly gives me a sense of, okay, I'm in this place, right? It conjures the illusion, I think, of where it's taking place. It doesn't feel like Bronson Canyon. My suspension of disbelief, boing, is hoisted high, and I'm in Azteca. Is it? But yeah, it's not the Devil Bat, which I urge anyone within the sound of my voice to go see. It is also nowhere near PRC's like the duels in PRC's Horror Crown, Strangler of the Swamp, and Bluebeard, where it's amazing how even less realistic matte paintings are able to conjure a sense of Paris out of nothing. So it's not up to those, but it does do what it promises. Because it is, so obviously the Devil Bat and very much lesser than it. I have to rank it lower than that. I quite honestly, I'm bouncing back and forth between a C plus and a B minus. With a gun to my head, I can't help but smile every time I think about the ridiculous mechanical flapping of Quetzalcoatl when off he goes. So I'm going to settle on a B minus.
Oh my lord!
Okay.
Wow. Okay. Well, it comes to me.
Comes to you, Shaun.
I would agree with David that the matte paintings do a good job of immediately setting the suspension of disbelief aside, and that I come crashing back to reality when I realize I'm in a place where it's suspiciously only white people, which I find bizarre because even the people that work in the local government are all white people, and I don't understand what's going on. So I have this weird being pulled in two completely different directions where the matte painting does such great work, and I can believe that I'm not in Bronson Canyon or wherever. But then on the other hand, I'm sitting here going, but why is everyone white? And I don't have an answer. It's very strange. But I think it's very clear. I don't hate this film. It's not good. It's kind of ridiculous and dumb, but it does a lot of really silly things that I just find kind of fun. And I enjoyed watching it with everybody. There are films we've watched where we're like, oh, thank Christ that's over. This is not one of those. I mean, we kind of joke oh, mercilessly, it was only 58 minutes. But it's also we sat there and thought, there was 15 more minutes of film they kind of needed for this. Normally, we don't say that. And so for that reason, I will give it just a solid C. Which puts us, actually, if I'm correct, Paul, at a C.
Yeah, I think so.
Because a B minus and a C averages to a C plus, then a C minus and the C plus average to a C.
Given that my grade probably is actually vacillating between a B plus and a C plus.
Actually, yeah, we come up with a C plus.
Do.
Why?
2.7, 1.7, 2.0, that comes out to 4.7, that comes out to 6.4 divided by 3.
Oh, Jesus, you're doing the whole
2.1.
math.
I always do that, so it's just a little above a C. It's between a C and a C plus.
Okay, we'll just call it a C because I think that's fair.
Okay.
If you
had to sit me down, it would be a C.
Look, the movie feels good about itself because it's listed as a B movie, right? Which we would all recognize would actually be an F or a D, and it's getting a C. You know what? That's a passing grade. Just saying.
Fair enough.
David and I know what it feels like to give a passing grade to a student. Good times. Okay. Well,
okay.
We're going to wind up.
Done a thing.
All right, folks, thank you very much for being here for this episode. This is it for the show. So please, if you'd like to suggest movies or themes for Torture Cinema polls or what have you, the best way would be skiffingandfanty@gmail.com or skiffingandfanty.com/listener suggestions.
Or you can just contact us on social media as well if you just...
I was getting there.
I mean, that's another way to give suggestions rather than making people go to a form.
I know, I was getting there.
Okay, I'm just jumping.
The other way is you could find us on the social media. We're on Blue Sky, Threads, Mastodon, and some other places. You can find all of our social media. We're basically Skiffy and Fanty. If we're there, we're Skiffy and Fanty. Linktree is the best way to find all of our links to everything. That's linktr.ee/Skiffy and Fanty. And you can find all of our stuff like our Patreon and our newsletter and all of that. Give us all your money because we're broke. For me, I am at ShaunDuke.net. I'm Alphabet Streams on Twitch, where I also do the Skiffy and Fanty stream, 7 p.m. Central every Friday. And I do other stuff. And then I have a Patreon and a social, and I'm on Blue Sky and Threads as well. My link tree is just /Shaun Duke.
I'm mostly on Facebook and on, sort of on Mastodon at David Annandale at social.horrorhub.club.
And as for me, I am ubiquitously on the internet as Prince Justin, except Twitter. Seek no landings, I mean tweets there.
Oh, that was it?
Yeah.
Okay, well, as is required by the Skiffy and Fanty bylaws, I must now make this awkward. And so a lot of people don't know, but David is in fact one of the rare species of humanoid that actually can shapeshift. One of his forms is the form you see presently before us. This is his most normal form, I would say, the one that is the least scary or offsetting. One of his forms is just an avocado. I don't know why. He'll have to explain that at another point. And one of his forms is actually as a twitching, weirdly feathered serpent creature that sort of kind of flies.
Goes with the being in two places thing.
Exactly.
It does, apparently.
Yeah. So when you see an avocado in the store, it could be David. So be careful.
Like they used to say, don't step on it. It might be Lon Chaney.
And on that note, awkward ending and scene.
Okay. Stay frosty.